Moments with Marianne. I'm so excited we're spending this time here today. We have a very powerful show coming right up, and our special guest today is Stefania Magidson. Now, Stefania is here to talk to us about her new book, Searching for the White Magician. Stefania earned her degree in health education, and she has a master's in applied spiritual psychology. In 2002, she founded the Blue Heron Foundation, one of the world's largest nonprofit organizations in Romania. To date, the organization has raised more than $2 million. It has awarded over 300 college scholarships and has touched the lives of at least 2,900 children. What a big accomplishment. My goodness. So let's welcome to the show Stefania.
Thank you so much, Marianne. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really honored.
What a joy it is to have you here, my goodness. And I just love your book. I can't wait to dive into this a little bit with you. We're not going to give too much away because it's so profound. You know, people will probably want to go get their own copy.
Yes.
Why don't we start at the beginning? How did this book even come into being? Because I know there's this conversation that happened between you and this other really dynamic woman.
Yes. About 14 years ago, I met a very respected Romanian-American writer, novelist, poet by the name of Carmen Firan. And she was very interested in the foundation that I run, Blue Heron Foundation, dedicated to Romanian orphans. And we were talking about the foundation and about dreams come true in our adopted country. And then years later, she invited me to do an interview for a literary magazine in Romania, except that one article that we wrote together became two, and then there were so many comments and questions and so much interest from the public that the two became four, and then 13 articles that were published in that literary magazine in Romania, and we decided we had enough material to have a book. And so the book, Searching for the White Magician, came out in Romania about 5 years ago, and it sold out in 2 editions. And at the beginning of this year, it came out in the United States, so I had to translate it, and I was very grateful to be given the opportunity to publish it with New Meridian Arts. It's a book about spiritual psychology, about the manifestation of destiny, a book that explores the difference between feminism and femininity. It touches on questions about immigration, about philanthropy, and about cultivating a spiritual path. Really, I think that's the leitmotif of every chapter. I think what's great about the book is that every chapter stands on its own, so the reader can just pick up the book and say, oh, I want to read about dreams today, and they can just read the chapter on dreams, and the next day they can pick another chapter that speaks to them, say feminism and femininity. And so it's a book that I think will appeal to a lot of people, and especially to those who want to cultivate a spiritual practice and to lead life from that point of, from that approach.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you can see, these questions were extremely thoughtful. Were you expecting that when you did the interview with Carmen?
Well, what I knew was that we wanted to be very accessible in our conversation, even though the interviews came out in a literary magazine that was read in general by academics and erudites. I knew that it was very important to appeal to the lowest common denominator with these notions, including for people who did not necessarily have a spiritual practice or were agnostics or just had a very different approach and lens so to speak, of reality. So, but her questions were poignant, were deep. I love the idea of having a dialogue rather than just writing a book in first person with your notions and ideas about life, because in a dialogue you can be asked to clarify things, you can be contradicted, etc. So in a way, Carmen gives a voice to many of the kinds of questions that the readers would have. So I think because of that, it's a very sort of dynamic kind of engaging, and I think the reader will appreciate that. Somebody mentioned, Socrates, I believe, like this was the manner in which he was writing, because it's a very engaging kind of a way of communicating.
I would agree. I mean, when you read your book, what I love is that you can just kind of hop to any place, and it feels like all of a sudden you've joined this conversation. You know?
Yes, and it's not a page turner so much as the kind of book that you read a question and you pause and you read the answer, and then you sort of digest it and you look inside and sort of see what your answer is. And I would say that everything in the book is based on personal experience. I did my master's degree, I should mention, in applied spiritual psychology here at University of Santa Monica. And it was a program that affected me, had a profound effect on me. And I took a lot of those skills and that lens of filtering reality. I took that with me throughout the years, and I tried to share that with the reader. A lot of people said at the end, we would love to read your next book, which hopefully will be about very specific skills and tools that we can apply to our own life. And I do have a list of very tangible ways that will appeal, I think, to everybody, regardless of your faith, or if you are an atheist or an agnostic. Very tangible tools that can help you cultivate a spiritual path, and I think just have a richer life. So I do have those handy if and when if you wanted me to share some of that with the listeners.
Oh, yes, I'd love to hear some of that. I mean, I felt like your information was so on target. You could feel it resonate. You know,
Yeah.
I'd really love to hear what you have as far as, like, a couple of them, because you don't want to give them all away.
Yeah.
A couple of the tools that you'd like to share with us that people can put in practice today.
Yes. So one of the ways in which I found just a beautiful way of delving into our subconscious and into what's beyond our five senses is working with our dreams. I found them to be an incredible source of understanding ourselves and enriching our lives. And so I work a lot with dream incubation, which is a way of asking, before we go to sleep, asking for guidance or for clarity. Sometimes I can even ask very specific questions like Spirit or God or whatever you want to say. You know, I would like to get more clarity with regards to situation X, or I would like perhaps the next steps to be revealed to me, because so much of our lives, to in part, are very cerebral kind of rational decisions we make where we use critical thinking. But there's another part of our life that can only come from our intuition, from our creative self, from our connection with the divine, and it's sort of hard to find those answers unless we find these other paths. So dream incubation is a wonderful way. And then I believe in recording the dreams. I keep a notepad next to my bed, and I jot down the gist of my dreams in the morning, and then later in the day I actually, if I have time or if it was a particularly important dream, I journal them in length and really analyze them, and I have received tremendous answers and guidance and revelations during my dreams. And I think one other way to cultivate our spiritual path is through service. And in the book I talk a little bit about the nonprofit that I started 16 years ago, Blue Heron Foundation. And during these about 16 years, we've sent to college over 350 Romanian and Moldovan orphaned and abandoned youth, and we've witnessed them become doctors and engineers and teachers, and giving back and engaging with a project that resonates deeply inside ourselves is such a wonderful way to concentrate on the half of the glass that is full, to gain a little bit of perspective, to really feel that the world is one and not just, talk about it or experience that in a theoretical sort of way. So the foundation has been a big part of my life. We pay for Romanian and Moldovans college education, and we also give them a monthly stipend. And in addition, we connect them with mentors in their fields. So the doctors are with Romanian American doctors, and the engineers with Romanian American engineers. We actually even have some engineers from NASA who are just drawn to jump in and be mentors. So we witnessed these kids who had so little to start with. We witnessed them growing and blossoming and becoming independent, self-sufficient adults who are actually very eager to give back themselves. So this has been a very rewarding project for me. It did not come into being from a place of feeling like it's an obligation. It was just a very organic way of saying thank you to what I had in life, the fact that I had come to America with nothing, and through education and hard work I had built a platform, a material and social platform from which I could give, and we had 2 healthy children. I was so grateful for that. So it came to me in a very organic kind of way when I was about 32, 33, and I never looked back. And so we are called in life to serve, and I think it's different for everyone, and you sort of know you hear that little voice inside, or something stops you in your tracks, or something really speaks to you. And I think I just encourage the listeners to do it when they resonate with that certain something, and to do it from the heart, not from an obligation. And in my case, it has also been a source of, really in the end, charging my batteries and allowing me to experience life in fuller and richer ways. Especially living in Los Angeles, it's such a seductive city, and it's so grounding for me on a weekly and sometimes daily basis to connect and talk to our students and see how they are doing. It's such a different world, and it gives us perspective and keeps us grounded and keeps our hearts a little softer on the edges. Yeah,
can we all use that nowadays, right?
Yeah, I feel that way. There's just so much noise and conversation that it can be divisive and just not of the heart. And it's a beautiful way to come back to our centers and what is deeply meaningful. So I'm all for it. Yes.
Well, it makes such a huge difference, I know, because with your foundation, it really comes from a place of gratitude. And so what a beautiful place to start, through this sense of gratitude, because, I've heard your story and how your children inspired you, and that coming together, I think, is just such a beautiful beginning.
Yes, and also having tasted what real hardship is like. We came to America in 1983. We came here legally. However, it was a time, it was the era of communism, and leaving a communist country back then meant that there was no going back. It meant that the government confiscated everything you owned, so our beautiful home was taken away, and we exchanged a little bit of cash, I think about $400 on the black market, and the Romanian government even confiscated our Romanian citizenship for really no reason, but I think it happened to a lot of the families who lived during that time. So we found ourselves actually in Salt Lake City, Utah, with my parents and my sister. My parents didn't even speak English, and we really had to start from zero. I was 15 years old, and I was going with my parents filling out job applications, and the experience that I had was as if the rug had been pulled from underneath me. It just rattled me to my core, and even though I was only 15, I started to ask myself some very deep and profound questions, such as, who am I without my extended family, without the friends that we've known sometimes for generations, without the home that I so loved and the social status we had. So it was sort of at that moment that and everybody in the family had a different experience, I should mention that, but for me, the bridge was spirituality, or connecting with something higher than my physical surroundings, because pretty much everything was taken away. And it was during that time that I discovered Joseph Campbell and read The Power of the Myth, and a couple of Indian sages. I remember reading Inspired Thoughts by Swami Rama, and I got a little bit into yoga, and so it was just step by step through cultivating the inner world that I started to build and cultivate my outer world, which in the beginning felt very, very foreign, and I did not feel at all at home or at ease, even though we had landed in the quote-unquote land of opportunity, and with time that very much proved to be the case. But I had this span of about almost 10 years until I finished my master's degree. I mean, every year it got slightly easier, but really it was an arc of hardship, and sometimes I refer to it as crawling in the mud, because I really knew what it meant to be an adolescent and have no financial support. I was just whatever I could earn at my menial jobs was what I had to purchase textbooks and clothing from secondhand stores and pay for my little car and my contacts, but everything, I felt that I was on my own, and I received some emotional encouragement from the parents, but they didn't have that much either. And it was sort of sink or swim. And so I relate very well to this stage in a person's development, the adolescent years through the early 20s, because it was a very defining period for me. It was not an easy period, but at the same time I felt that it was really through education and hard work, and in my personal case, a spiritual practice, that I was able to make it. And my life changed even more when I got married, and I was sort of, because of my husband's business background, I was able to step on an even higher platform, and it's beautiful. And again, it's a message for those who have that platform, really to give from the overflow. And I think that's what I did once I was in a position to do it. Yeah, but I really relate to that stage, that you know, those formative years that are so important, and that's why when I work with these abandoned kids, even though I started out with toddlers, in the end, for the past 14 years, we ended up focusing on the 18 to 25-year-olds, because there's so much that they can still accomplish during that time. Yeah.
Yeah, and they really do need still a lot of guidance through those years, because they're on their own. It's like, what do they do?
Exactly, and so many who are actually now in their early 30s, they've gone through the program and they still come to, we have mini reunions every summer when I go back and we do a summer camp, and then we meet with the alumni and the students from the main cities where we are active, and many of them tell us, you know, we were really at a crossroads, and we could have very easily slipped on a very different path. And they were so grateful for our program, or the mentors, just being seen as equals, or being seen through the eyes of an accomplished mentor, that they can do it. That alone sometimes just really saved them and put them on a different path altogether. And yeah, we can never underestimate how much influence and how much we help, even by being present in somebody's life and giving them feedback and encouragement with regards of their options and so on. You know, and they also, it's not as easy as that. I mean, you know, these are kids who have gone through a lot. There are big scars inside of them. The work of inner healing, it's just at its beginning stages with them when they join our program. But we hope that through their monthly journals, where they explore their inner landscape, so to speak, and through their mentors, and through the summer camps and the reunions that we do, we hope that the process of healing starts. And really, it's a lifelong process. From the spiritual point of view, I also see them as, you know, beings who took on a tougher curriculum in this lifetime, but perhaps it's for a reason, so we never pity them. Those are not the kind of emotions I have, or we have for them. We just see them as beautiful souls who for a while they need someone to help carry their torch until they can carry it themselves, so to speak. So that's sort of where we come from.
I agree with you. A lot of times it's these beautiful souls that have such a difficult past just means that they've got so much more that they're going to help other people with, because they've been through there, you know, kind of like how you shared with your story. You've been there, you've seen how it is, and you have empathy for what people are going through during those times that young people are going through.
Yes, and I really also want to stress out that it's so important to do our own personal work. So over the years, I had to get very clear about my priorities, because often with the kind of work that either volunteers or the people who are in the help profession, we can easily get exhausted and easily put in way more time and energy and heart and soul to the point where we are depleted. So I've had those times when I had to look inside very carefully and really contemplate on my priorities. And so this is what I came up with. The first is always my relationship to God. That's really my first priority, which, we all cultivate however we decide to, through prayer, through meditation, through being mindful and slowing down and contemplating or just being. My second is myself, just taking good care of myself on the physical, emotional level, because there were years and months when I didn't take good enough care of myself, and you can feel that in your health. And then, everybody else can sync with you if you don't give from a place where your batteries are charged and full. Third is my husband and children, and then only fourth is the foundation. And I really felt that I couldn't afford to, like I said, for me to get out of line spiritually or in terms of my physical health. I couldn't ignore my kids, or my husband. Everything sort of has its place, and I try to have this hierarchy. And then after the foundation, the social life and hobbies and extended families and so on. But I had to get very clear on my priorities, and I think a lot of our listeners too, in their pursuit of vibrant health, have had to sit down and really think of how they divide their time, what they engage with, how much of their energy they give, and to what, because there are so many people and projects and just so many sources that want our attention and want a piece of our energy. And we want to make sure that at the end of the day, we are replenished and can start a new day, with full batteries.
Yeah, be able to move forward, because it's so difficult when we're not in that place ourselves, then to be able to ask other people to help other people. We just aren't in this place where we're able to support people in the way that we really want to.
Yes.
It's such a journey. Well, and so I've got to ask, because you kind of touched on this a little bit, and it's not kind of part of the book, but it seems that you have just had this amazing giftedness when it comes to dreams and being able to not only manifest your dreams, but, just be very aware of them. In fact, I've heard you described as an athlete of dreams. And is this something that you've and it makes sense, maybe that's who you are. So when we look at that, is that something that's been with you even as a child when your family came here from Romania and you guys were kind of you're like, gosh, I'm going to start creating some new dreams?
Yeah, so I feel like, in a way, and I didn't come up with this, I think because of all my actual tangible work with dreams, initially I was called that by somebody else, and, it's lovely. But I think metaphorically, too, I like to think of, to encourage people to be athletes of their dreams, because, well, I have this term that maybe not a lot of people are familiar with called entelechy, and what it means is if the acorns entelechy is to become an oak tree, what is your entelechy? In other words, what is your highest potential? And I think, again, we get these signals along the way in our lives when something in us resonates, or we stop in awe, or something inside us gets animated. And we have to pay attention to those opportunities, I would call them, and to have the courage to dream. When I did my master's degree in applied spiritual psychology, it is just very vivid to me how important the experiential part of mastering the material was to them. And so for our second year project, which was October through June, we were asked to complete a dream, to make a dream, to manifest it into the reality of the five senses. So besides writing a thesis on whatever we had to write it on, we also had to demonstrate that we not only theoretically have mastered the material, but we are being able to manifest it in our lives. And so mine was, so just to give you a few examples, somebody wanted to lose the 40 pounds they've always tried to lose, and somebody perhaps was an engineer, but for years he's sort of been dabbling in painting and wanting it to take it to another level, but never did. And so maybe his dream was to have his first exhibit, and so on. So mine was to get ready on a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level to meet my life partner. Notice I didn't say to meet the partner, but for me to get ready to meet that person. And so it was a very multifaceted process of getting ready on all those levels, because I had an ideal scene, let's call it, of what that person would be like. And they always told us, write your ideal scene as if you had a magic wand and make sure that 51% is attainable. So they always, I guess you do get cautioned about also being a little bit realistic, like you dream big, but also have a gram of realism in that. And so, on that list I put everything I could possibly want in my partner, keeping in mind that there were some non-negotiables which were really part of that 51%, that if those were in, it meant to me that it was pretty good, that maybe I won't get 100% of what's on the list, but I was going to get at least 51%, and those 51, whatever the elements of the 51% were, they were the non-negotiables, the things that were so important to me that I would never want to compromise or not have. And it just so happened that around March, so I guess about 7 months or so, and 6 months into the program, I was introduced to someone, but it took a number of months of really sort of getting to know that person better, and then 2 years later we got married, and that's basically my husband. So I met him when I was 25, and we've been together for 25 years and married for 23. But he was just one example of, and it's a lot more complex than what I'm describing here, because there was a lot of work in free-form writing and identifying patterns in myself that maybe I brought to other relationships that perhaps I wanted to let go of because they weren't serving me, and free-form writing about my the best version of myself, and taking steps in that direction, because I thought, well, if I want this person, what kind of a mate would this incredible man want? So I guess in a way that was the recipe of learning how to make an inner dream a manifestation in the physical world. And I think I went about manifesting the foundation in a similar way, because it was something that started inside of me, and as a dream, as something that I was excited about, something that initially was not even tangible. I mean, it was intimidating I went to Romania to my first trip in 2002 to an orphanage, and I didn't know anything except that the kids jumped into my arms and they were calling me Mama, and I knew inside of myself that I was going to do something for them when I came back. I just felt that I had a sacred contract right then and there. And people were asking me there, the administrators, if I had a foundation, and honestly, I didn't even know exactly what the term entailed back then. So I very diplomatically answered, not yet. And, once I came back, I had to get together with lawyers and, learn all the tangibles of what it took to start and then to build a foundation. And so all the dreams have to be followed up in the physical world reality. But I think it starts with this, with a dream, with something that you really, it's a co-creation with spirit. And, and this is perhaps where I should also mention the term sacred contract, something I talk about in my book, because supposedly some spiritual leaders think that before we come into this body or before we are born, we take on certain sacred contracts, things that we want to accomplish in this lifetime. And they can vary anywhere from being somebody's mother or sibling to making inventions in a particular field or bringing an awareness to humanity about something else. So I think, again, when we slow down and pay attention to what animates us, I think we also start hearing and sensing our sacred contracts in this lifetime. And these are incredible, important things to pay attention to, and I would say very high-level contracts or endeavors. I don't know how else to call them. They're more than just,
I would agree.
Yeah, going into work and punching up, putting in the time. And I think by answering those questions, I think we answer some bigger questions that are so common. I see them all around me. I went back to the same school just recently to do a program in consciousness, health, and healing. It's a 1-year program. And I meet so many professionals around me who have, practiced law for the last 30 years or have been very engaged in their careers, but they feel such a disconnect now between their, higher self, spiritual self, and what they do at work. And they want their work to have meaning. And that doesn't mean that you quit your job. It can mean sometimes something as easy as relating to it differently and from a different place. But that can take years of, it can be a very long zigzag journey, but it's totally doable. But what I'm trying to say is that people are looking for meaning in their lives. They're looking to see if what they're putting their time and effort and abilities into, if it's really meaningful to them, if it's empowering, if it's uplifting them and their fellow human beings. I think a lot of people are grappling with those questions, and I just returned from TED Talks in Vancouver. I think a lot of the listeners are familiar with TED Talks because they watch those amazing talks online on YouTube, and they take place in Vancouver every spring around April. So I just came back, and a few of the talks were about how many of the jobs will be replaced by robots in the future and the whole role of AI. But what's interesting on the axis that they came up with, where they were showing where various jobs are going to be, right at the top of that is, we are going to be asking ourselves and sometimes consumed by the question of meaning of our life, of the purpose of our life and our work. And so these are wonderful questions to ask ourselves, wonderful questions to meditate on, to write about, and it's a process. It's not an overnight aha moment, although those can sometimes happen through grace. But it's a process, and personally, I'm very joyfully engaged in it, and it's something I explore in the book too. All these notions of entelechy and sacred contracts.
Yeah, you do touch on that. And I love how you talk about initially, just what kind of person are we? If we're going to want to bring this fabulous person into our lives, where are we currently, and how can we make changes and improve ourselves? Because that's a never-ending journey in my regard.
Yes, it's a never-ending journey. It starts first with, I guess, becoming conscious of that question and really wanting to consciously engage on that path. And I think it's a beautiful path, and it's the only path. I think Ram Dass was saying that even people who are not consciously engaged in it, they're still sort of doing the same thing. They are just unaware of it, and maybe the path is a little more windy and circuitous. But I think we're engaged in that. So I'm one of the people. One of the things I mentioned briefly in the book is that back in Romania, between the ages of 8 and 10, I trained as a competitive gymnast at the same school where Nadia Comaneci was training. So at a very young age, I was hundreds of miles away from home, and besides going to school every day, we were doing 3 to 4 hours of heavy-duty training. So there's a part in my life where I cultivated this incredible physical discipline, and I'm 50 now, and it's still with me, and I love that little part of me. I'm not obsessed, but I'm healthy physically, and I believe the bodies are the temple of our soul, and without being narcissistic or egotistical, it's important to take the best care that we can of them. And so in my case, I love working out, and then I love attending to the mental, emotional, and spiritual levels too. On the mental, I do it a lot through free-form writing, where I just write whatever comes to me. And this is the kind of writing that it's a lot of purging, so you want to shred it or burn it afterwards. But this is where you sort of get in touch with paradigms that perhaps you carry around that no longer serve you, and letting go patterns of thinking or of behaving or even of being emotionally that have been set into motion in our childhood. Some people believe maybe even from other lifetimes, but they've been set into motion, and some of them don't help us that much. And so layer by layer, just like an onion, we peel them off, we become aware of them, and some work for us and some don't work for us. And so this kind of diligence and commitment to first of all allow to unravel what is there and come into the light, and then working with releasing that which doesn't serve us is really important. And that's also why I think dreams are so important, journaling, because it's really our chance to grab the metaphorical flashlight and shed light on the basement of our subconscious, and we can see, oh my God, check out that creature in that corner, and I didn't know. But
and we all have those.
We all have. I mean, we are human, and we all have a shadow side, and we all have things we've repressed, and our guard is down in the dream. See, our guard is not up, and so we have this incredible chance of seeing what's behind the curtain, and that's so exciting. You know, Freud called our dreams the royal path to our subconscious, and they truly are. And that's why I really encourage people to set an intention to start remembering their dreams and to jot them down in the morning and then analyze them later on. I even like to give titles and subtitles to my dreams. Sometimes the title alone can be such a big message to myself about something or a pattern or a situation. And I always write them in present tense as if they are happening. And if I have time, I even give a voice to each character and even each object in the dream, because they are an expression of a different part of us. And to me, it's just, dreams are such a rich, rich source of understanding ourselves deeply over time.
Well, and what if you get a dream that you don't quite understand what's happening in it? Maybe it's a little off where you're like, oh, that's a really wild one. How am I even supposed to interpret that?
Yeah. Well, the one thing that has been brought back to me over and over, the question about the dreams is, what does that dream mean to you, or what does that person in the dream signify to you or symbolize to you? Mm-hmm. Because it's so different. If a black cat means something to me, maybe because I grew up in Romania and I have certain associations with a black cat, it may mean something very different to you. It's not necessarily a universal symbol of bad luck or whatever. So I think this is a very important question of asking ourselves that and trying to write it out. Of course, if we have a therapist, somebody we work with, we can try to dialogue with them. There are also wonderful books. I think there's a book called, it's not coming to me now, I apologize, but there are wonderful books on dream and DreamWorks, and even groups that get together and is just their form of therapy. But I would classify dreams into several categories. One is, let's say we've been filing a good part of the day, and so we go to bed and we're still filing documents in our dreams. I think it happened to a lot of us, that sort of organizing, and I think it's the brain's way of just of releasing kind of nervous tension and sort of completing things that are maybe weighing on us. And then there are dreams where there are reenactments or things, the things that we're scared of that maybe show up in our dreams, whether around abandonment or being chased by somebody bigger and not being able to run away. Some dreams are sort of universal, but I think these are the kind of dreams that you can journal and really look at. What does that dynamic mean to you? Do you feel disempowered? What are you scared? What are you running away from? So asking a lot of these type of questions. And then there are dreams that are, I would call them healing dreams, or dreams that, for those who believe that maybe we have ascended teachers who work with us, or perhaps deceased relatives who are still watching over us, but these are dreams of a more spiritual nature. I was going through a period when, in spite of things being really good in my life, I couldn't feel people's love. I knew in my head that I was loved. I could not really somehow feel it in my heart and in my body. And it was going on for some weeks. And in the dream, my grandmother, to whom I had been very close, she showed up. She had passed away many years ago, but she showed up and she was dancing with me, and she said, "Stefania, I love you so much. You are so loved. You're not alone. The love is all around you, in your heart." And I woke up literally imbued in every cell with such deep love, such a deep sense that love is inside and all around me. So to me, this was a healing dream that came from a higher place, and so I consider it a dream of a spiritual nature, but also a dream where I had the chance to heal something that was really important to me. And I guess I would say that dreams also give us the chance of healing patterns instead of acting them out. You know, maybe I could have lashed out at people in my family that they don't love me enough, or I don't know. But it was, this is just an example, but what I'm saying is that we can dream about patterns that become clear to us, and we can resolve them on that realm, which I think has a much smaller price than if we enacted on the stage of our physical world reality. And some are unavoidable. We are meant to manifest on that stage, but I think dreams can be very therapeutic and healing, and of a spiritual nature as well. So and some of them really don't make sense at all. And sometimes I ask before I go to sleep, it's like, I dreamed this dream. I don't know what it meant, but it seemed very important. If there's something I meant to know or understand or get, can I be further shown in a way that I can understand it or get it? And so sometimes I would work with a dream that I have no clue what it is, with asking for further clarification in a way that I can get it.
Well, it's so important to do that. Well, hey, I get it. I mean, because sometimes I've woken up with dreams saying, what the heck was that all about? You know, and you do have to sit there and just kind of be with it for a little bit and get the general sense. You know, and a lot of times it's not as gloomy as most people would think, you know?
Yes. I agree.
Well, and so, Stefania, if someone wants to donate to your foundation, where can they do that and learn more about the work that you're doing with that foundation?
Sure. So the website for our foundation is www.blueheronfoundation.org, and the donate button is big there. And I should mention that because I'm in the fortunate position of being able to cover all expenses of the foundation, absolutely every dollar that is received is used directly for our students. None of it is spent on, lawyers or stamps or PR or any of that. Everything is used directly for our students. It takes about $1,200 per year per student to support them in college and support them with a small monthly stipend. And another way in which they can help, and it's also on the website, is they can become a mentor. Unfortunately, it's only for Romanians or Romanian Americans who want to become mentors, because the communication is done in Romanian, and these are kids who initially they open up very slowly, as you can imagine, and it takes a while to gain their trust. And so we felt that we couldn't have the language barrier on top of it. It would have been very hard. So these are the two main ways in which people can get involved, either through donating or becoming a mentor. If they have additional questions or suggestions, they can reach us at info@blueheronfoundation.org, and we will get right back to them. And the book, Searching for the White Magician, is available on Amazon. And I hope everybody's inspired to read it, because it is practical, and on top of being, I think, like I said, on top of having this thread of spirituality throughout it. And I think it speaks to everybody, and I think it is inspiring, and it's a demonstration that dreams can be made into reality. And I think it's really why we are here on the planet, to make these dreams that come from a higher plane, to manifest them, because we are in a physical body and we have these great minds, and most of us are highly educated. Here we are, let's bring these dreams from another realm and manifest them on our beautiful planet.
Be able to move forward. Well, do you know, gosh, I so appreciate you taking the time to be on the show with us and to share not only your wisdom and insights with us, and of course your great book, Searching for the White Magician, but also Blue Heron, the foundation. I highly suggest everyone get involved in that. So, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Well, this was a beautiful opportunity. I want to thank you and thank your listeners, and I encourage everyone to start dreaming and start remembering your dreams, both the ones at night and the ones that we have for our lives and in our lives, and to grab your magic wand and transform them into reality.
Stefania, I couldn't agree with you more. Gosh, we really do need more magic in our lives. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.